Good afternoon, respected panel. I am Pooja Krishnan, and the co-authors of our research work was Devi Punya and Angel. And our today I am presenting our research paper titled "Carbon Negative Development Pathways of Bhutan, Suriname, and Panama: A Comparative Review of Policy Strategies and Lessons for Developing Nations." So the study focused on how developing countries can achieve sustainable development by balancing economic growth with environmental protection and particularly through carbon negative and low emission strategies. So ma'am, can you change the slide? So moving on to the introduction. Basically, climate change is one of the major global issues of the 21st century because of the rising of the global greenhouse gas emissions and global warming, which led to the environmental imbalance. So this has created for a strong need for sustainable developmental policies, so where countries aim to balance economic growth with the environment protection. As a result, many countries are now focusing on achieving carbon neutrality, which means a net zero emissions. So as a result, however, a more advanced concept is carbon negativity, where the amount of carbon absorbed is greater than the amount which was emitted. So these are achieved only by a few developing nations such as Bhutan, Suriname, and Panama. So this formed the basis of our study where we analyze these countries are managing their developmental pathways. Ma'am, can you please change the slide, ma'am? Okay. So moving on to the problem statement, one of the major challenges faced by countries today is the difficulty in balancing economic growth with the need to reduce the carbon emissions. Although there is a global focus on achieving carbon neutrality, progress beyond this level is very limited. So in reality, carbon negativity is really achieved, rarely achieved, especially among developing nations. And the key issue is that there is a limited research focusing on how developing countries can actually achieve low carbon or carbon negative development. There is also a lack of clear understanding regarding how important factors like forest, renewable energy, and government system interact with each other. So, because of this gap, there is a strong need for practical and effective low carbon development strategies that can be applied in a real world situations. This forms the core problem that our study aimed to address. Ma'am, next slide, please. So moving to the objective of the study, our studies includes to examine carbon negative development pathways in Bhutan, Suriname, and Panama, and through analyzing the forest cover and carbon balance, to evaluate renewable energy structure and transition, to study environmental governance framework, to assess economic structure and its impact on the emissions, and to identify key factors for carbon negative development. Ma'am, can you please? Moving on to the methodology, basically this research is basically on qualitative comparative research design, and the study was about the three developing nations which I have discussed previously, and we completely rely on the secondary data sources which include World Bank, FAO, UNFCCA, and IPCC reports. So key variable analyzed here was forest cover, carbon emission and absorption, renewable energy structure, environmental governance, and economic compositions. Ma'am. So basically, here are the findings regarding the forest cover and the carbon balance indicators. So Suriname has the highest forest cover, around 93 to 94 percentage, and it can absorb a lot of carbon. And Bhutan also has the highest forest cover, around 72 percentage, and it has a rule of, and there has a government rule that they had to maintain at least a 60 percentage of forest. So Panama has the lowest forest cover, around 56 percentage. Because of this, Bhutan, Suriname can absorb more carbon than they emit. So they are basically they are carbon negative countries, but Panama has a moderate absorption and higher emission. So it is moving towards a carbon neutrality. So higher forest covers help countries become carbon negative. Can you please? So moving on to the next key variable factor was renewable energy and electricity structure. And all the three countries mainly uses the hydropower as their major renewable energy sources. Bhutan has a very high use of renewable energy and a very low use of fossil fuels. But Suriname and Panama still depends on fossil fuels for about 50% of their electricity. So Bhutan is more sustainable compared to other two countries, and overall higher uses of renewable energy helps in reducing carbon emissions. Ma'am, next slide, please. So here we are discussing about the climate policies and the governance framework. And Bhutan has a very strong environmental law and focuses on maintaining a carbon neutrality. And Suriname also focus on maintaining a carbon negative status through forest policies. And Panama is aiming to achieve carbon neutrality by to 2050, and through its climate action plan, Bhutan follows a concept of gross national happiness, which includes environmental protection. Overall, the strong government policies and laws help countries to achieve like better economic performance. Next slide, please. So here is a economic structure and emission implication. That is the GDP contribution by each sectors from the countries. Basically, coming to the Bhutan, the service sectors mostly provided mostly contribute to the GDP, and coming to Suriname, it is also service sectors. Basically, three countries are mainly dependent upon the services, and major their economic drivers were hydropower for Bhutan, gold and oil for Suriname and Panama. They mainly focus on the canal and services. Can, can you please change that? So key findings are like carbon negative development depends on interaction of multiple factors. It doesn't focus on a single factors. And forests are the most critical for carbon sequestration, and like strong governance ensures, which is mainly happened in the Bhutan. They have a strong governance to ensure environment sustainability, and basically the three countries mainly focus on the renewable energy and reduces the emission intensity. And the other findings were key economic structure influence. They also influences the emission patterns also. Basically, the three countries are mainly focused on the service sector, where the carbon emission was mainly from the secondary sectors. So, moving to the last finding was sustainable development. That sustainable development requires as an integrated approach. Ma'am, can you please? So moving to the conclusion and policy implication, finally, this study shows that carbon negative development is not dependent on a single factors, but on the combined effect of forest, renewable energy, and strong governance. Forest plays a very important role because they helps in absorbing the carbon, but ecological resources alone are not enough. So there must be a strong institutional commitment also and effective policies to ensure long-term sustainability. Among the countries studied, Bhutan stand out as a strong governance model where environmental protection is an integrated into national policies. Suriname benefited from its large forest cover, but it also faces a risk due to activities like mining and oil extraction. Basically, the major economic driver of the Suriname was oil and mining. And Panama, on the other hand, is following a policy driven approach and is gradually moving towards carbon neutrality. Based on these studies, the study suggests that some key policy recommendations and first, environmental protection should be integrated into the national laws or even constitution to ensure long-term commitment. And second, the countries should promote a renewable energy sources such as hydropower and other clean energy options to reduce emissions. Third was economic diversification is important, especially shifting towards a low emission sector instead of heavy dependence on extractive industries. And finally, strengthening a global cooperation and climate finance is essential to support developing countries in achieving sustainable development. Overall, a balanced and integrated approach is necessary for achieving carbon negative and sustainable development. Can you? So these are the reference of our study. We have taken it from IPCC FAO, as I mentioned in the methodology section itself. Thank you.